The folder was beige, slightly bent at the corners. The kind banks use when they want paperwork to look reassuring. My father placed it on the coffee table between us as if it were a gift. "I used your college fund to pay off your sister's mortgage," he said. His voice was calm, steady, almost proud. "You'll thank me later." My sister inhaled sharply from an armchair near the window, but she didn't speak. She never did in moments like this. Silence had always been her safest position. I opened the folder: statements, liquidation forms, transfer confirmations, the balance zero. I felt the familiar tightening in my chest, not surprise. Recognition. This wasn't sudden, it was simply official. "You're not even in school yet," he continued. "You've always been independent. You'll figure it out." She has kids, a house, responsibilities. He meant she matters more right now. I closed the folder gently and placed it back on the table. "If you think so," I said. He seemed satisfied by my lack of reaction. That was the role I'd played my entire life. The reasonable one. The adaptable one. The one who didn't make scenes. But the thing about being adaptable is that eventually you adapt in ways no one sees. 3 years earlier, when I turned 18, I had quietly asked the bank about the structure of the account. It was a custodial fund set up in my name. That meant something. Not fully mine until a certain age, but protected. Restricted. Not designed for unilateral withdrawals. I didn't confront him then. I just asked questions. I applied for scholarships. I deferred admission for a year. I worked, I built savings. I secured conditional acceptance into a university program abroad that allowed installment payments. I treated the college fund as uncertain long before today, because uncertainty had always been part of my upbringing. He leaned back in his chair, satisfied. "Family comes first," he added. "One day you'll understand." My sister stared at her hands. I nodded. 40 minutes later, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and answered casually. "Yes." The tone of his voice shifted almost immediately. "What do you mean?" Silence. His posture straightened. His free hand pressed against his thigh. "I am the account holder." Another pause. No, I was not aware of that restriction. The air in the room changed. It wasn't dramatic, it was procedural. "Yes, I understand compliance," he said. More quietly now. I didn't move. I didn't look at him. I watched the second hand of the wall clock make its quiet rotation. The voice on the other end must have been patient. Clinical, explaining the nature of custodial accounts. Beneficiary consent requirements. The automatic flag triggered by full liquidation. His face lost color gradually. "Not all at once. You're saying the transfer may be reversed." My sister's head lifted. "Reversed? There was no fraud," he said quickly. "It's a family matter." Another pause. "I see." The call ended without ceremony. He didn't look at me at first. He stared at the blank screen as if it might offer a different answer if he waited long enough. "They're reviewing it," he finally said. "Apparently the account structure required dual authorization after you turned 21. I met his eyes. "I know." That was the first moment he realized this hadn't been ignorance. "They said the transfer could be frozen pending verification," he continued, his voice thinner now. "There may be an internal investigation." The word investigation landed heavily. My sister shifted uncomfortably. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said calmly, "that custodial funds are protected for a reason." He looked at me then, not angry, not shouting. Just unsettled. "You knew?" he asked. "I asked questions a long time ago. And you didn't tell me." "I didn't need to." That was the truth. Preparation is quiet by nature. It doesn't announce itself. He ran a hand through his hair. "I was trying to help your sister." "I know. You could have said something before you assumed I'd absorb it." I asked softly. The room held that question without answering it. This wasn't revenge. I hadn't triggered the review. The bank's compliance system had. Policies don't bend for family narratives. They don't respond to pride or justification. They respond to structure. He stood and paced once across the room. "I've always supported you," he said. But it sounded less certain than before. "You supported your version of me," I replied. The one who didn't push back. That wasn't accusation. It was observation. Another notification buzzed on his phone. He didn't check it. For years, power in our house had been subtle and unquestioned. Decisions flowed downward. Justifications followed afterward. Today, it hadn't reversed dramatically. It had simply met a boundary. "I don't want trouble," my sister whispered. "There won't be," I said. Compliance reviews aren't punishments. They're corrections. He sank back into his chair. What happens now? He asked, and for the first time in my life, the question wasn't rhetorical. They'll likely reverse the transfer until proper authorization is processed, I said. Which means if you want to gift her money, it has to be done from your personal funds. Not mine. The word mine felt different now. Not loud, not rebellious, just accurate. He studied me as if I were slightly unfamiliar. You've changed, he said. I grew up. The clock ticked again. No one celebrated. There was no dramatic apology, no collapse, just a shift. Later that evening, as I stood to leave, he said quietly, "You really had a backup plan." "I didn't rely on one source," I replied. He nodded slowly. It wasn't defeat in his eyes. It was recalibration. In the driveway, the sky was beginning to darken. My phone buzzed with an email notification. My scholarship confirmation finalized for the upcoming semester. I didn't smile widely. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt steady, inside the house. My father would now understand something that no argument could have taught him. I was no longer the quiet child who absorbed decisions. I was the adult who prepared for them. And that difference would not reverse.